if you tend to feel anxious about your relationship, worried that maybe you are more in love with your partner than they are, that you want to spend more time with them, but they seem to not want to spend as much time with you, and you crave connection, but you often feel lonely, then you may be an anxious attacher. And often, as anxious attachers, the way we try to fix this situation in our relationships is by pleading, getting angry, making threats, criticizing, complaining, walking on eggshells, maybe even ruminating, crying, pleading. Unfortunately, though, all of these things only push the other person further away, which makes us feel more anxious, and it repeats this cycle ad nauseum. Sound familiar? There is a better way. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 steps that you can take to get your needs met while also showing up in the way that would make you most proud. Ready? Here we go. Number one. Number one is a bit of a doozy. It is to get uncomfortable with uncertainty. There's so much research that mental health is correlated in large part with a person's capacity to tolerate some level of uncertainty in their lives. Now, uncertainty looks like I've sent a text message to my spouse or to my partner, and they haven't responded back for a few hours, or maybe that day, that whole day, they were busy and didn't get back to me. Maybe I called them and they didn't return my call. Maybe I told them that some important date is coming up for me next week and they didn't ask about it in the next couple of days after I told them. All of these things breed uncertainty because we don't know what's happening. Why aren't we getting the response that we wanted? And what does that mean? And since we don't know, instead of sitting with the fact that we just don't know, we as anxious attachers will make up stories about what this means. He doesn't care. She is selfish. I give and give, but people don't care about me. People will abandon you if given the chance. They only care about their own needs. I'm always the outsider. I don't belong. We create all these stories in our heads that actually worsens the anxiety instead of accepting that life has moments of connection, moments of disconnection, certainty and uncertainty, and that dance between intimacy and disconnection is a part of a good life. We don't know that. And so when there's disconnection, uncertainty, we think something terrible has happened, something has gone wrong. And we try to fill that up with all these stories and meaning making and trying to pursue the relationship, right? So the number one thing is to fully take in that a good life, a normal relationship, a normal life has moments of connection and moments of disconnection, moments of certainty and moments of uncertainty, not knowing what is going on and when something might be resolved. That is part of mental health, knowing that and tolerating that. Okay, that's number one. Number two is to start getting very good ownership of your nervous system state. What I mean by that is when you are anxious and feeling worried or agitated, right, scared even, you know how that feels in your body, right? For all of us, right? It might be unique to each person, but in general, we tend to have fast beating heart. We may feel tense in our muscles. We may feel our stomach dropping or some nausea. We might feel tightness in our jaw. We may find it hard to concentrate because our thoughts are flying everywhere. We might repeat one scene over and over in our heads, right? We might pace. So these constellation of how your body feels when you are not steady and centered is something to be aware of, and to take full ownership that when you feel that way, your number one priority is actually to bring your body, not your mind, your body back to a little bit more calm, open, steady equilibrium. And you're not going to get there by thinking more about the situation, right? That's what we do. We think if I just analyze it for 2 more hours, then maybe I'll find the answer. But you won't find the answer here. The only way for your thoughts to get clearer is actually through your body. Instead, we go opposite. We try to clear our thoughts by thinking more and more, but it only makes it more muddy up there. It's like going into a puddle, right? The more you go in and splash around in a puddle, the muddier it gets. So the answer is not to think more, it's to drop thinking and fully take ownership of soothing your nervous system. Now, if you don't know how to do that, I have another video on my channel somewhere about how to calm your nervous system in just 5 minutes. Learn those tools. It will change your life. So that's number 2. Take ownership of your nervous system. And when you feel discombobulated, your number 1 goal is to bring your body back to equilibrium, at least a little bit closer to equilibrium. Number 3 is boundaries. Now, sometimes we're anxious because somebody hasn't texted us, or we wanted this particular reaction. We wanted our spouse or our partner to check in this many times, or our mom didn't ask us the right question, the right tone, and that hurt our feelings, or maybe didn't even ask at all about something important to us, and that hurt our feelings. All of that is first to soothe our nervous system, and then I'll tell you what next to do. But sometimes our anxiety is because somebody else is legitimately crossing and violating some boundaries. For example, if you're feeling anxious because someone is calling you names, posturing in front of you, coming into your space, telling you what kind of person you are, like character assassinations, trying to control how you dress or what friends you have, or how much money you spend here versus there, right? I'm not talking about if you have a budget with your spouse, then it is important to at least have a conversation before going over the budget. But I'm talking about if someone is telling you that spending $50 or $25 on something is not okay and you have to run everything through them, that is a form of financial control. So these sort of things are genuine boundary violations. And you're not going to feel better by just ignoring those boundary violations. So the third step is to check to see, is there an actual boundary violation? A lot of my clients, they confuse boundaries with needs. So if you have a need for your spouse to use a gentle tone, but instead they use a snippy tone, or if you have a need for your spouse to reply back to your texts in 5 hours, but they reply back only in 10 hours, those are needs, they're not boundary violations. Boundary violations is when someone is doing something and it is crossing into your space. Okay. So again, controlling, you spending $20, telling you what to think and what not to think, telling you who your friend should be, coming into your space physically, stopping you from leaving the room, calling you names. Those sort of things are boundary violations. And those things need to have you be very clear about where that boundary is being crossed, and then you have to honor that boundary. They're not going to, clearly. So stop explaining and trying to rationalize with them. They're never going to get it because it's not their boundary. It's yours, and it's on you to honor that boundary. If you don't know what your boundary violations are and how to honor them, I will post another video in our YouTube channel, and you can also look for a podcast in the YouTube channel. There are several on boundaries, and that should help you be able to create and honor your most important boundaries, because it's on you to create that internal sense of basic dignity and safety for yourself. So that's number 3. Number 4, once you have made sure that you understand and have accepted some level of uncertainty and disconnection being part of a healthy, good life, that you have soothed your nervous system, and that you have established at least 1 or 2 really important boundaries, and you're honoring them for yourself. Then the fourth step is to grow legs under the table, so to speak. Think about a table. The only way that it will be steady is if it has four legs under it that are solid and strong and can support that table. If you only have three legs, the table will topple no matter, even if the surface is made of diamonds. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into how beautiful the table is. If there's only three legs, or if the legs are very unsteady and not even attached properly, that table is going to crash. So what does that mean for your personal life? It means that you need to have your own sense of identity and connections and sources of joy outside of this relationship. There's so much I can tell you about that. And with our clients, we actually create and help them find out what their particular table legs look like, because they're different for everyone, and then help them grow those tables and attach it firmly so that their surface of their table can be steady for decades. So there's a lot that goes into that. But for this video, suffice to say that it includes things like sleep, nutrition, sunshine, spending time in nature, friendships, hobbies, creativity, and a sense of purpose or passion that pulls you forward, that gives your sense of meaning to your life. And I'm not talking about just having a job. I'm talking about somewhere where you feel like your talents are being taken and used for the good of the world. All of that is very important to creating legs under the table. This is something that a lot of anxious attachers, completely ignore. As they become more sort of ruminative and obsessed with this relationship, they actually give up a lot of what makes them them, and all their uniqueness fades away, and they become just a replica of, or in a holding spot for all the worries in the relationship. That's a big mistake. Okay. Your anxiety about the relationship itself will go down as you develop the legs and steady yourself. So that's number 4. Number 5 is nourishing the relationship itself. Now, I come from a long line of farmers in my ancestry, and so I think in farming analogies a lot. So imagine your relationship is a plot of land, okay? And you are relying on this plot of land to be able to provide sustenance for you and your family. If all you did was to weed, right? Every morning you go into your plot of land and you're pulling out weeds. That's great, but is that going to give you a harvest? No. You also have to actively, intentionally plant seeds and water them and make sure that there's enough sunlight and enough shade and enough nutrition in the soil, right? Yes, weeding is important, but weeding should be less than the planting, the seeding, and the nourishing, okay? So nourishing your relationship is the only way that you will get a harvest. If you are spending all your time complaining, criticizing, nagging, pleading, being angry, shut down, walking on eggshells, none of that is going to give you a harvest. Okay, so the number 5 is actually nourishing the relationship. And again, there is so much to be said about how to nourish a relationship, but the 2 most important concepts here is curiosity about your other person's inner world and appreciation for the little things. Okay, so I'll just leave you with those 2 things in terms of ideas to start nourishing your relationship. And finally, number 6 is learning conscious communication tools to make asks in a way that you can get your needs met while also honoring the limitations and strengths of the person with you, because we all have limitations and strengths. So how do we ask for our needs to be met and ensure that those needs are being met, at least at a fundamental level, while also honoring the other person's needs, opinions, strengths, and struggles? That is the final thing, and that's called conscious communication. Super important. But this order is also important. Oftentimes in therapy, people jump directly into communication tools and they don't work. Why? Because it sounds great in the moment, but when you're at home in the middle of an argument or you're feeling that anxiety come up, you can't think straight because you haven't first learned that uncertainty and disconnection is a part of life and learning to tolerate it. Working with your body first to steady yourself, figuring out what your boundaries are and how to uphold them, and creating legs under the table. Without those steps, communication tools sound nice, but they won't work in the moment. So those are the six steps. Now, if you want my personal help and my team's customized help to one-on-one help you create this so that you can have safe, loving, lasting relationships while also honoring your needs, we can help you. We've done it for hundreds and hundreds of clients, and we have a 90-day process that will completely turn around your relationships if you allow us to help you get there. So if you'd like that, there's a link in the show notes below to book a free relationship breakthrough call. And during that call, we will learn more about your situation, create a customized roadmap for you, and then we can talk about whether working together would be a good fit or not. So take advantage of that if you'd like that. And if you don't know if you're an anxious attacher, there's another video in my channel that talks about the 8 oddly specific signs of an anxious attacher. So go watch that video and learn if you are an anxious attacher or if someone in your life is an anxious attacher. So I'll see you in that video.